All right, cool. So we are live on YouTube right now for Gogotalx, brought to you by GOGOTIX. I'm Malachi Johns, your host. Today we are joined by Tré, my man, Tré the people. I can't call you Tré, man. That sounds a little, yeah.
Nah, that was when I was a kid. That was my nickname when I was a kid.
Oh, it's twice? I didn't know that. All right, so
Yeah.
you're going with Tré. That's what I've known you as.
So, on Facebook they asked you for a last name.
Uh,
Back then they used to, so
that's where the second one came from.
yeah, because I don't put my real information on here.
I feel you. I feel you.
So
Uh,
I mean, this was back when we first got Facebook pages. I was like, I don't know what this shit doing.
a little too much information.
Yeah.
All right. Well, real quick, everybody that's on Instagram, head over to. Oh yeah, I forgot. I gotta paste the. Hold on one second. Let me put the information for everybody that's over on Instagram. Let me put the information for where the full interview is going to be. Where the full interview is over at gogotix.co. So GOGOTIX.co. I'm putting the pinning the comment right now to the top so you can just go straight to it. So join us now over at GOGOTIX.co, and that's where you'll see the full interview with Tré of the People / Walé / UCB, etc. So, okay. All right. So, everybody on Instagram, head over to gogotix.co because there's still a whole lot of people joining on Instagram. We're not doing this full interview on Instagram. It's on gogotix.co. So, if you want to see Tré, he's a lot more handsome than I am. If you stay on Instagram, you will only see my ugly face. So, head over to gogotix.co, not .com, .co, GOGOTIX.co. Head on over there and we'll get started here. So Tré, thank you for joining us today, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So why don't you give us like a, however long you want to go, history of your life in and in the entertainment business.
I've been in the music business for about, I'm gonna say, almost 24 years.
And you don't even look like you're 24 years old.
And started with I'm one of the founders of UCB, uncalled for band. I think we kind of like made it a fad of the alphabet soup band thing. The UCB.
They always beginning of the alphabet band.
Yeah, because I mean, at first before that, it was like Backyard and Junkyard, and you would see occasionally JYB or BYB, but that wasn't like what they went by.
You don't get NEG, buddy. You're talking to the NEG, man.
I mean, well, yeah, NEG, but that wasn't really. People said Groovers. Or
right.
You know what I'm saying? People say jump, or people would say back. Like with us, uncalled for, it was such a different name.
Yeah.
That people got comfortable with UCB, and then since we, had so much early success that was so massive in that area, a lot of people UCB just became popular, and then people just wanted to mimic that fad and. Which was, I mean, they say imitation is the highest form of flattery, but it kind of hurt us more than it helped. It flattered us.
Why you say that? Why did it hurt you think?
I mean, because nobody was doing that. But then once every band started to do that, we got mixed up with the rest of the bands, that the alphabet soup bands, but we weren't even like them sonically. We didn't sound like them. We like that was like more like the bounce and on. We never did like the bounce thing. That was never, you know what I'm saying? That was after us, long after us. But then, once you had some of the 5, 6, 7 years into our existence, a lot of people would say, I ain't nobody coming to see y'all with that, all them, no, we don't even do that. Like, but we got mixed in, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, I sort of remember that. I mean, you were like you guys were like a generation under me, and I do remember that. all of the CB bands sort of got lumped in.
But see, if they never did that, then we would have been able to just stand on our own as that, and then like, oh, you know what I mean? We never got mixed in with a wave or something. But okay, so after that UCB, we had a few deals offered early, record deals early in the game, and then I had like a few solo deals offered early in the game that they weren't the best deals, you know what I mean? And then for
they were majors or independents or
both.
Okay.
For the band and both, like for me. But what a lot of people don't know, not even everybody in the band in UCB even knew back then, and a lot of them don't even know now about how I turned down solo deals to stay with the group.
With the band, yeah.
I'm talking about early days, like the early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what happened after UCB?
Then after that, I'm gonna say around like 2003, when Rockefeller was like the biggest hip hop group on the planet. Kenny Burns was the vice president of Rockefeller, and he wanted to sign UCB to Rockefeller. Well, it was really Dame. Dame kind of had an idea to go up along the East Coast, and every major market he wanted to act in that market. Mm-hmm. I guess that was his plan with his world dominance back then. So the criteria was they wanted a group that was young, that was hot, and a go-go band, but they wanted them to have original material and to be marketable to the masses. So at the time, Kenny was pushing for UCB. I mean, basically, we was like the only group at that time that even fit that criteria. But at the time, it was a lot of people that was like in power. I'm gonna say like radio personality positions and DJs and other, I guess, fake, what you would call influencers, for lack of a better term back then. They was pushing the agenda for it to be TCB. And then back then, at that time, TCB didn't really have its footing all the way. They didn't have that, find their niche all the way at that point. Right. And they didn't really fit the criteria as far as like age, like, you know what I mean? Rest in peace, Polo, that's my man, but he was like way older than what they was looking for. So, right. But they were more popular at that time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know that. So this may have been earlier before they made the age criteria. Part of the reason that, because I don't know, you may or may not remember, I was in LA at the time, and around that time, and Dig Dug called me. And prior to me moving to LA, I was in Vegas, but before I was in Vegas, we had the band Solo that was basically like at the beginning of the sexy movement or whatever. And if Dig and I used to always argue about whether we should be playing all these cover songs or not. And he called me and said that somebody from I assume it was Kenny from Rockefeller, had reached out to Northeast about trying to do something. And I don't really remember what the circumstances were, but somehow somebody in the band that was supposed to do something like messed it up. They dropped the ball, and he called me and he was pissed. He was probably drunk. He always calls me when he's drunk and pissed.
Yeah, but I mean, it was Kenny. It was just, Kenny always wanted to open up the door for the city. Right. You know what I mean? Right. He made great strides in music and entertainment and fashion, and always wanted to make sure that he was connecting the dots with opening up this city to make it, a viable like market that people would look at. But Dame was coming to see us. Like, we was back and forth with them up into New York and it was like almost about to happen. That was around the same time, like simultaneously, when they were having their internal issues at Rockefeller. So, to try to speed up the story a little bit, I end up they came to they came to Dino's. It was like the last time they came to Dino's, and Dame loved us. The week later, I got shot after one of the last times he came, and then that kind of like raised the eyebrow with them, and and then they started. That was like August of 2003. September, we find out like in September, October 2003. That's when they split up. The company split up, and so from what I heard was Kenny had, the company exploded and Kenny went on his own way, and that's when he did Ryan Kenny with the clothing line. He went into Saks Fifth Ave, and he was successful in the fashion world. That's like September, October 2003. Fast forward 2000, rest of 2003, the whole 2004, beginning of 2005, or most of 2005. That was almost 3 years of like no more UCB playing no more. Like we was banned from all clubs. You know what I mean? We was. A lot of people don't know that we was under investigation from the police, and we just couldn't play anywhere. This was at the time when Listen was emerging with Grown and Sexy. You know what I'm saying? And we was kind of like young veterans in go-go already.
Y'all always been old soul.
But we was we was like past at that time, I think the Hot Shop had just closed down. So you had your neons and your little Suitland dance music studio. Like you had that stuff, but that we was kind of past that. Because those were the generations like under us. So you got these high school kids and even younger than that. It didn't really. I mean, it was cool to like play and perform, but it was like that's not our. Come on now, not our vibe. But then the landscape was changing. So and then a lot of the people in that supposedly Grown and Sexy circuit, they didn't understand that we could play music. They just was turned off by a lot of the stuff that had been following us for all of the years that it did, and we couldn't get away from the stigma. So that was when I was riding one day, kind of like down, because it had been like a couple years that we was having big issues, and you felt like you was just right there at the door with the Rockefeller situation, and I just started digging back in the records and digging back in the crates, and then that's how I came up with Sexy Lady. I had just was riding around for a few weeks, just listening to music, and then it just come. A lot of the way that I create, it just come to me. I don't sit down and try to engineer nothing. Right. Like I just put myself in certain environments or vibes, and then it just comes. So the hook just came to me, and I called Mike, I think, first, and I sang the hook to Mike, and he was like, all right, I'm about to get to work. You know what I'm saying? Didn't hear from him for a little while. I called Eric and I sang it to him, but I sounded out the music to him how I wanted it to go. And a lot of the time, people don't really know that people have ideas all day in bands, but sometimes they don't get touched. They don't, because you got to like convince them, which was crazy to me, because I'm like, bruh, everything that everybody is saying or singing along with us, I made that up too. So why is this like, you know what I mean? Like hooks. Why? Huh?
I said, why y'all giving me a hard time about this one?
Yeah, so I had just asked them, like, humbly, I'm like, please, like, I have something. Like, I know I had something. I know how I wanted it to go. So, Mike, man, made a crazy, memorable rap. You know what I mean? And Eric and Slump, they figured out the percussion. Musically, I told the musicians like how I wanted it to go, and musically, but I don't play a lot of that stuff. So a lot of the times I had to sound it out like Isaac Hayes or Michael Jackson. Like I had to. That's how, like, producing that way, like sounding it out to them. Like I did a couple records on Walé first album like that too with Dave Sitak, that I co-produced.
So everything was done before the "Don't Disturb This Groove" part was put in.
No, See. I listened to. I listened to a lot of the old '80s music, and
Right.
Don't Disturb This Groove I had been listening to, but then that particular day it was like March in like 2005 when I made it up. I was listening to Tupac Lost Souls, which had sampled the system.
Gotcha.
That's how I made up the hook to that record.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? And then after that, that's when I went back, and when we went into the rehearsal, that's when I made the musicians understand it from the system version.
Gotcha.
Because it was a little slower, and the riff, the guitar riff, was what I had made the melody up to. So,
gotcha.
And then after that, that was 2005. It took like the rest of that year and a little bit of 2006 for it to reach the level that it did in our area. It took up over a year to work the record.
Real quick, everybody that's on Instagram, there's only a few people left. Make sure you head over to GOGOTIX.co because I'm about to end the Instagram live. Head over to GOGOTIX.co and you can see the full interview I'm about to end here on Instagram live. So what were you doing to grow the record? Between that time, like you said, it took a little bit of time for it to grow. Like, what were the actual steps that were taken?
When we first made the record, we knew it was something. Like I knew before I even convinced them. I'm like, I know this is something because I just felt it. Like so we recorded it live. Like the version that you all hear is live recording from Eric's birthday. But that wasn't the first time we played it. The first time we played it was like at some show we did in Baltimore. The power went out, but Eric and Slump just kept playing.
Those are always the best shows.
Yeah, and then after the show, everybody it was at Morgan State University. It was a show up there or something, and everybody kept coming to me asking me, "What was that y'all had played?" I was like, "That's just something new we working on," but the response was crazy. And I only seen like 2 or 3 other grooves that we've had like that over the years where the initial response from us first playing something was that crazy. And that's Married to Joanna, yeah. The initial, you know what I mean? So that's how I knew that it was something. So that was like, I want to say that was around May when we first played it. June. Eric's birthday is in June. We played at this spot called the Yucca down on Connecticut Avenue in that corridor. Before bands were even exploring that corridor for real. It was a nice spot, not your typical.
Was that a Wiley K joint? I feel like we played with y'all.
I don't know. It's like an office building or something now, but it was a restaurant called the Yucca.
I feel like because I remember that's how I met Wiley K. was Marlo Sauce and UCB played together. He did the show, and I feel
see, when we did it, I don't think it was bands doing it. Might have been, but we didn't know that. It was just a spot that was a beautiful venue, and we was trying to, we already was trying to change the narrative of like when you coming to see Go-Go's, you coming to a restaurant turned into a club or like those hole in the wall spots. Like I knew I could just sit back and watch the way that the city was changing, and I knew that the presentation was going to have to change. So that's why we explored those different avenues to have a better venues. You know what I mean? So we played the Yucca for Eric's birthday. We put that recording on CDs, probably like 10,000, maybe more, and I just got in the streets. All of us did really, but it's really more so the front lines. Duty to get out here, and if you the face of the band, it's your duty to get out here and push your group. Because I mean, like my big
duty, but I see what you're saying though.
Huh?
I feel like it's everybody's duty.
It is everybody's duty, but I'm saying more so like a lot of guys that's in go-go bands don't really understand, especially if you on the front line. Like you get a lot of the guys on the front line get a lot of the glory.
Yep.
But it's off the back and the sweat of the musicians. For real. You understand what I'm saying? So it like you have to bring something to the table.
Yep.
And being visible and being out in the streets and being out and about, that's part of your job if you on the front line. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes out of sight, out of mind. A lot of the bookings that we used to get back in those days was because I was out.
Yep.
It wasn't, you know what I mean? people that didn't just say, "Oh, let me just think out of nowhere, let's go book them." It was because you saw somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we passed out about 10,000 of those. We pressed up on our with our own money. Kwame pressed them up.
Yeah.
Kwame I used to go to Kwame's shop like every week with some money. Yeah, let me get like 2,000 more. Let me get 3,000 more. And it was just that song, so you ain't had an option to listen to nothing else.
Yeah.
Just Sexy Lady. Yeah, so I forgot what his radio name was, but I think it was Malik on 93.9.
Freak, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Malik showed us a lot of love. 93.9 was the first ones that was receptive. I think Gemini was supportive of it, but Alizé for sure was supportive of it. And Analyze. DJ Analyze is the one who broke Sexy Lady to me outside of the DMV. He sent it to all his network of DJs like in, tri-state area and up and down the East Coast and even around the country.
And he did that off the strength?
Just off the strength. Okay. Because he liked the record, and this is a relationship business.
Yep.
I mean, that's years of relationships with these guys up at the radio station.
Yep.
And 93, they did what they could. They jumped on it first and got like it going. But I also used to work in I used to do youth advocacy work, like with nonprofit organizations. I used to work with Cornell Jones. We had a nonprofit called Miracle Hands. The office was where the stadium and the Echo Stage is. That was our office. So I used to work closely with the what they call the trouble youth. Yeah, like I used to work in DC jail. At Oak Hill, at-risk youth, yeah. I used to help them get out of jail and get back in school or get jobs, and I was doing that kind of work. And a lot of people they act like they forget that. Like I did that for years, like in the trenches.
Right.
And one day we had a meeting at DC jail with the warden, the head of the religious group that was in charge of like a lot of those nonprofit organizations coming over to the jail to help the juveniles. Mm-hmm. And they always used to want me there because I was like the youngest, but I had a lot of influence over like a lot of the youth in the city at the time because I'm using my platform and using my platform with, our band and, the song. So
you still look like one of them.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I'm gonna keep finding you because I'm jealous because I don't get that gene. I need that.
You shouldn't be jealous because we know who's getting money around here. Look at your background.
Oh man.
We ain't gonna never leave you alone with that. But so at that meeting over there at DC jail, DJ Flex and DJ Rico was there. I think they was trying to do like, I forgot what they needed them for. So I ran into them, and they didn't know that it was heavily involved with that kind of work. Mm-hmm. So Flex was like, man, Flex and Rico was like, let me talk to you. What do you got going on? Because I didn't go to them with the record because I thought that we ain't have that type of love with 95.5 because of the shit that happened with us with Tigger 6 or 7 years prior.
Well, you gotta tell that story because I've never heard that story, and so.
When our first CD came out, Neighborhood Life in 1999. We was young, fresh. What I'm saying, fresh out of the neighborhood, mm-hmm. And our manager at the time, he used to tell us all the time, you can't have one foot in the street and one foot in music. You got to choose.
Right.
So, some of us chose. Yeah, Mr. Carter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Some of us chose, chose music and some chose the other way. And if you look back and you see, you like, damn. Because of the things that happened to the ones that didn't choose. So, I mean, we still young and we fresh off, but we had an interview at 95.5 with Tigger. And somehow at the end of the interview, his phone came up missing. I'm getting calls at like 1 and 2 in the morning from Justine Love.
Oh, that's my girl.
she like, where's the phone, Trey? Like, I'm like, what? I don't even know what she talking about. And to call her on the phone, our manager, he on the phone. And long story short, we got to the bottom of it, found out who had it. Didn't know. We didn't know. They didn't say it. So it was bad, like, because of the meeting went bad when he went to give it back. Like, because I told you we still fresh from out around the way, and he was like, man, fuck you. Man, I don't care. I took, you know what I'm saying? So it was bad. So we was banned from 95.5.
Wow. I didn't know that.
They said he went out, they said Tigger went out and rode over our CD, like with his truck. Because G Money cousin worked there, and I Can was working there at the time.
Yeah, I Can.
They told us. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that was just an unfortunate situation. So I thought that we could never, you know, revisit 95. So I didn't ask Flex and Rico, man, listen to my song. They just was talking to me and asked me what I had going on, because from the you know, the work over there at the jail. So I was like, oh, man, we got a record that we just put out last year. No, it was still 2005. It was like we had a record that we put out, and it was like, let me have it. So I gave them, both of them, like 10 copies a piece. I just gave them a lot of them, and I'm gonna say like 2 or 3 days later, I'm sitting in the office where the VIP room is in stadium, like that back wall. That's about the area where my office was at. And I get a call from Flex, and he said, yo, this is it. He said, Gogo needs this. He said, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that this gets heard. He was like, we haven't had nothing like this in forever, and you know what I mean? So then we started to get our own, you know, street team and people that was, you know, with our organization to get to call and request. But then it kind of took a life of its own. People did that after they first heard it. They started calling and requesting. So then that's how you had both radio stations like behind the record, and then it kind of blew up and took off from there. But during that time though, Reds, during that time, that's not the time where you get, you know, relaxed. That's the time where you turn up. And
thank you.
I used to go, well, me and Rock Mikey, but we used to go to grab the mic in H2O and Love, the nightclubs that was just the regular nightclubs that weren't go-go's. We still was in those spots grabbing the mic and performing like the songs that was our own, like VSOP and Splash Girl, and you know what I mean? For those that don't know those records, that's where Walé references in Pretty Girls when he say, I'm in the in the something range when I'm singing old Trey shit, trying to get Splash coming right, like those records. We used to do those in the early 2000s, late 90s in the club, Platinum and stuff like that. So we was like visible and working the record. We get to work in the record. Now that it's on the radio, now we going in the nightclubs working the record and playing in some of the go-go's now.
What do you mean by working the record? I just want to be clear about that.
When I say working the record, I mean like it's on the radio, but people gotta put a face with the song, and you know it's always a thing to help DJs if the person who record they playing is right there. They could just grab the mic. It helps their set. You know what I mean? It helps their show. So I was just popping up on everybody at their live. I mean, at their gigs, like Alizé, Analyze, all the DJs, like showing up and showing love, chilling with them, drinking with them in the booth, and working the record. And and at that time, as soon as we began that, Mike ended up getting locked up at the beginning of that process. So it really, a lot of it was by myself in the street working the record. Did you bring me down to Charlotte one year during that time? It was a show or something in Charlotte.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I drove like I'll never forget that. We had a show in Charlotte. I drove down by myself and I had thousands of posters. I put the posters up in the parking lot by myself.
Yep.
Like then when it was a show with Lil Boosie.
Mhm.
Then I went and performed the show that night by myself. Sexy Lady. It wasn't a band show, and it was like us and I think Scooby and them and Lil Boosie when he was hot. Boosie and Webby. I don't remember what year that was. That might have been like 06, 07.
I think it was 06, 07 because I think Mambo Sauce was on the show too. That's why I was part of it. I think if I remember correct, I don't know. I'm old.
Yeah, but it was just stuff like that, like not having no shame and getting out and doing the leg work. A lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand the leg work part. They think that okay, I'm in a band, I make a song. Man, I need somebody supposed to be doing this for me.
Well, that's why I wanted. That's exactly the reason why I started this series, is because I want to show the difference. I mean, my main thing is the difference between what happens in go-go and the go-go business and what happens in the national business. But even this, like you're talking about, "Sexy Lady" is one of the most successful go-go songs of all time.
Since doing the butt.
And right, and you just said you passed out, and Eric said it when he was on a couple of weeks ago. 10,000 copies. You know what I'm saying? And you work that shit. And when I had Miracles and Welcome to DC, I was working that shit too. You know what I'm saying? And it takes work. It's not just you don't just put it out and it just magically becomes a hit. You got to put some effort into it. And I think that's lost on a lot of people. So it's really important to hear you talk about that. And I appreciate you telling the story.
Yeah, because a lot of the time, especially with today, the way that we had these platforms and the direct access to a lot of things, it's like a lot of people, it's like you can cheat, but when you cheat, your foundation not strong. You losing a lot of steps. Your character is you don't develop the character along the way. People think that I'm gonna go on one of these little dumbass competition shows and my life is gonna change, which that's cool, but like I don't respect a lot of those shows.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like your American Idols and all that shit is whack to me because it's for the people that's judging, for them to get paid. You know what I mean? It's for entertainment, for the television network and all that, and they making a mockery of you.
It very rarely ends up as any of the artists that are on it that win. It very rarely ends up in successful.
Yeah,
career.
and you missing steps as far as like your character and your integrity along the way. So when even if you are successful, it don't last long. Because you don't really have that thing inside that make you like you slow cooked it or slow brewed it to get where you needed to get. So a lot of the appreciation ain't the same, and you got kind of a jaded, skewed view of who you are and why you're here.
Yep, absolutely. Microwave careers. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you from the booking side. I booked when I was at the casino. I booked some of the American Idol people because of my bosses, and I'm like, yo, nobody's gonna buy tickets for this. And I, generally speaking, I was right. Like there's one or two that might do okay, but I'm telling you that most talent buyers and that work at real venues, that like they don't give a shit about the reality show contest. It doesn't mean you have a career. It just means you got lucky.
Right. So I think that. So after that, to bring it full circle, after Sexy Lady kind of just took the area and the country by storm because it was in like 18 different markets around the country that we didn't even know.
Yeah.
We didn't have no idea because we didn't we didn't know it was going to take like it did. And we didn't have the business all the way together. We had our, company and basic things like that together that we did different than most bands do. And our publishing, but we didn't do the radio research and had the BDS bands and which markets to go and attack, you know what I mean? And then
it wasn't as easy back then either as it is now. And it was very expensive.
The only way we knew was we was getting calls from all over the country. Yo, they playing y'all in the club. They playing y'all on the radio out here. They playing, you know what I'm saying? So then that's around 2006 when it was like heavy at this peak.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Burns shows back up.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of 2005, we get a call, and he like, I need y'all to help me. I need y'all to help me get my artist known in DC. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know who he was talking about. And then, you know, you was kind of on and off with Kenny for like another month or two. And he was just like, yo, I need y'all to help me break this kid, man, this African kid. And we was just like, I mean, at first we was like, where you been at? Like,
Right.
you out the blue, you know what I mean? Like, and then he was just like, he's like, nah, I did a lot of thinking. You know, I didn't really accomplish what I wanted to accomplish in this business, and my Rolodex is too valuable to not. So he wanted to break somebody from here. And I guess he found Walé. I think they said it was at like a talent show or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something that open mic or something like that. But Zay had already been working with Walé.
Yeah. I was working at Aja, if you remember Aja Amani,
yeah.
So I was managing Aja Amani.
That's what I'm saying. Marlon was one of the ones that was in the talks with the Rockefeller thing a few years prior. Yeah, they wanted like the urban clothing and all that. Yeah, I remember.
Marlon was solo, and that's.
I remember.
Yeah.
So when Kenny said that, I had already been on a project with Walé and didn't even know it. It was a Remix Kings, DJ Momo and Kenny Love. They had the Oi Boys, who opened a lot of doors for us. Yeah. Like in far as DC, it was a hip hop group, and a few other like local acts that was on the project. So, but I didn't know this at the time, and so Kenny was just like, "Yo, I need y'all to help me, man. Y'all gotta help me. Y'all got this. Y'all been in it for years, blah blah blah." And I had never met him yet, so I was out one night at Platinum. Went to go see Zay. Fuck with Zay in the club. Got on the mic with Zay, and I was in the booth. And this kid come up to me and was like, "Yo," and he talk about, "I'm a fan. I was a fan of y'all. I used to be in the Go to come see y'all, blah blah blah." And he's literally saying shit that you would have had to been there to know. Like he was like, "Y'all used to go and up against the wall. Y'all used to do this on Saturdays, and then I would see y'all in the club that night, and so on and so forth." And I'm looking like, "Who the fuck? Who is this?" Like, so then I'm looking at, and he like looking. He's seeing it on my face, like he like, "I'm Walé." I'm like, "Who?" He like, "I'm Kenny Artist." I'm like, "Oh, you who Kenny was talking about." So you know that's how that went. Right. In the booth. That was 2006. That was like March. I'll never forget because I had left Mirrors. I had did a song or something. I had did something with Raheem, or I had talked to Raheem that night. I don't know if we did a remix yet, or we talking about the remix that night when I ran into Raheem at Mirrors, and then I went to Platinum right after that. That's when I met him. That was like February or March 2006, and then after that, Kenny flew in like the next day or two, and then we was just together for months after that, and we was putting the plan together. It was supposed to be Walé, then UCB, then my project, then somebody else, then back to Walé. That's how the cycle was supposed to go. As far as releases with Studio 43.
Tabby's on here. He said he remembers seeing you and Mikey in the club. Tabby
yeah. Tabby was out working. He was out moving. Yeah. So at this time, I was by myself because Mike was locked up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what happened with Kenny Burns? Because I know, because I remember like when I was Marlon I wasn't managing anymore. I think I was maybe in LA at the time or something. But I remember that Marlon was hitting me, or no, I was back, I guess. But Marlon was like, "Yo, we want to put this song out in the Samples Northeast Groovers. Can you link me up with Miss Pratt and try to, make sure that the paperwork is right and all that." And then it was
with Kenny, I think Kenny got a real infectious and like he got like a intense personality. Mm-hmm. If you young. Because I think they've had discussions like, I don't think Walé could handle it at that time. Mm. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of the time Walé was saying that like people think he the artist, I'm the artist, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? But
I got
For somebody like me and and our group with UCB, like that was a plus for us to have somebody that intense and like with a big mouth like that,
right.
like representing you, or just like because it's like a weight off your shoulders. Like it's finally somebody that's like talking about bringing the attention to themselves, but also to shedding light on whatever that they are involved in.
Right.
Which we appreciated that. But I don't think that, I'm not sure if Walé was like, if he understood back then.
Right.
I think later on he said, man, if he knew then what he knew, as he went on, he, things might have been different. But they end up parting ways, and that's what Walé
linked up with Mark
Ronson. But he came to talk to me and Eric before he did all of that, and we told him that, I mean, you a grown man, you need to do what you think is best for you. Like, I wouldn't suggest it, but at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. We already had our own relationship with him now outside of Kenny, so I think he was trying to see what we still like help him.
Got it.
I mean, we didn't have any contractual obligations to Kenny or anything, but we still helped him, and I still maintain my relationship with Kenny because Kenny the one that helped put this together. Like, and I mean,
that says a lot about your character because it's hard to manage both of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I used to hear a lot of people say wild shit to Kenny, but I mean, I just used to be like, they say this, but then at the end of the day, he still did this or he still did that. So,
right.
And I would let it be known. Like,
right.
It's this. I'm more truth based. Like, whatever.
Right.
I know who did this, or I know who did that, or you can't say that they didn't do this, or you can't say that they didn't do that. Like, so, right. But right. At the same time, like, Kenny, you're not gonna tell me who I can work with and who I can't.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, family or friend or whatever, whoever you are to me, enemy, friend, family, you're not gonna tell me what I can and can't do, or you're gonna have to see me. Period. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's just the attitude that we have. Like,
right. So, okay. So then how did that transition into, so you guys said, so Eric, and this is important, and Eric touched on it. But I want you to expand on it too. Like, what was the early touring like? Because I think people have especially in go-go, have this overly glamorized view of what, touring as an early stage artist is. And, realize
I'm gonna say when Walé went overseas with Mark Ronson and Jay-Z and them, in like 2007, we was doing shows with him. We had started doing shows with him. They started combining us because we had a big record, and then he was the one that had the most notoriety for hip hop. So we started doing stuff with him, and then we started doing showcases with him in New York, like SOBs, Highline Ballroom. But we still was doing other venues like West Virginia, like Mid-Atlantic, further out Midwest, further south along the Eastern Seaboard, and a lot of it we was driving. See, at that time, I had money and Eric had money, so we used a lot of our own money.
Right.
What I mean? We paid for a lot of things. I'm talking about like rental cars, gas, like, and this even on Walé shows. Like, that's what I don't think a lot of Walé's regimes that come in with management, I don't think they understand like the financial things that we did early on.
Right.
You know what I mean? That came from our own pocket.
So I just want to be clear about this. UCB was touring as Walé's band at the beginning, and you were covering at least a portion of your own expenses in terms of travel.
And the one-offs that we was doing before we went on the big tours, like the Blueprint 3 tours and the Attention Deficit tours, a lot of the one-offs that we was doing that was like combined, like that was like jumbled up in the same weeks and months, a lot of those dates was UCB on the bill with Walé, right? Which was, so it was going to be separate deals worked out. Right. But we was renting our own vehicles. and driving our own self. Like I was driving to Atlanta, doing the show, then turning right back around and coming back. Driving to Florida, doing the show, then turning right back around and coming back. And we, you know, and on our own, on whatever budget we had from whatever the show was. Or with our own money, because of course you had to put up the money for yourself, because back then schools and those type of places ain't even pay you for 6 to 8 weeks later and stuff like, you know what I'm saying? So we did a lot of that on our own. And then when Mark Ronson got Walé is when we started to do the showcases, like in New York. That's when Hove was bringing Leonardo DiCaprio and a lot of these other celebrities to come see us, because it was a big thing. Like, it's this new kid, hip hop from out of DC, crazy lyrics, and he got this new sound, which was go-go with him. So like at that time, Walé had just sheer like will and like tenacity, and he could rap. We just helped to guide him show-wise, like put the shows together, and so it could be like a show. So it was a hit, and that's when that's around the time when Jay had did it first before everybody else, but Walé kind of ushered in rappers using bands. I mean, Jay had did it with the Roots, but he wasn't touring with them. Like he wasn't touring with them. Yeah, Walé kind of like ushered that, and he don't really get a lot of credit for that. At that time, he wanted to connect the dots and let everybody around the country know this is the group that y'all hear. That go-go record that y'all hear everywhere, this is the group. So he kind of used to say he wanted to pay us back for helping him, like to take us on the road. And he used to say, I'ma connect the dots and make people know that this is y'all. And he just wanted to see go-go on another level. That was what and even to this day, that's still one of his biggest goals.
Well, let's figure that out.
I wanted to get back to your point about what needs to be done, or why it hasn't reached certain levels that it need to be. A lot of people don't know the history of it. So like in the 80s, when go-go was hip hop's cousin, and it was big, and the go-go acts was on the same shows with the hip hop acts, and the go-go acts were closing the shows out because of the energy. They had way more original material, visuals, and showmanship, like horns in the band, uniforms, or wardrobe, you would say, dancing, and it was a thing. I think the bands got away from it. I mean, when Junkyard was signed up, Def Jam, Big Tony and Trouble Funk was signed, EU was signed. And hip hop just became a more easier financial thing to push than the big bands with 15 people. Russell Simmons took the Fat Boys, LL Cool J, Run DMC. That wasn't even 15 people, with all them different acts. Like
boys in there too, and you still aren't at 15.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, so they took the show on the road. It just was it was just a logistic nightmare for, I think, a lot of labels to put the bands on the road. But that's when you gotta take it into your own hands and do it yourself, like some of the rock bands used to do, and would get in a van and pack up. Because what people don't understand is, to be big, you have to penetrate markets. DC or the DMV area, that's just one market. How are you going to penetrate those markets if you're not on rotation in those cities on the air? The only other way is you have to go there. And you have to perform. But people don't think they understand that. You got to put the legwork in. They just waiting for somebody to come swoop in, say, oh, he's talented, and then you do it. And I provide you the platform. That's not how it's going to always go.
I don't think it's how it is ever gone. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you do have people that get noticed or discovered, and then they come and they get into a system where a label already has the machine and they have the everything laid out for them, and then they become a star. I think that's what
Yeah,
people
but
do.
I think that like that hasn't happened in a very long time, and especially now where the labels are completely data driven and they're only looking
Right.
at that already have some type of metrics going
Yeah,
on,
they already have something.
socials and streams and tickets, you know.
Mhm.
And if you don't have any of those, then or I mean, now I'm not saying that there's not, you know, like if you're like the next coming of Prince, then yeah, you know, if you're the
Right,
weed,
right.
I'm saying that's a different story. But if you're just a average artist, you know what I'm saying? Like you got to have something going on before any of these people pay attention to you.
You do. And what I learned from, I think he was the head of Universal Music. He told me, I got a lot of jewels over the years, like working with
That's what this is for.
Pharrell and Jay-Z and Gaga. Like I used to be in the studio with a lot of these super producers and
Mhm.
and on tour, like touring, like that Blueprint 3 tour was one of the best, most learning experiences that I think I've ever had with Hove and NERD. But the head of Universal Music told us that in the music business, the business, not the music business, he said the music is the least significant piece in the music business. He said it might represent maybe 5% of the money that's generated.
Mhm.
And that other 95% is the merch, the endorsement, all that. He said, but you can't get none of it without the record.
Yep.
He said, so he was like, look at the irony in that. So I think a lot of people here don't understand. They always try to figure out what am I doing? And they always trying to overanalyze the music, the music. But they don't never look at themselves and say, is this even me?
Mhm.
Do I even have a niche? Do people even like me outside of the music? Like Salih asked me,
He's on here.
he asked me a week ago, he said, what you think made UCB like people like y'all early, like y'all did? I was like, because we already had a following before we even started the band. The individuals in the group, we had a popularity, like a following
Mhm.
with relationships with people all over the city from the sports that we played. Just, you know, we just had a following. So like we was some shit in 1996 and 97, but we still had 800, 900, 1,000 people in our shows 3 or 4 nights a week.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you get to the bands that come like after us, and they think that, oh, I could just do this musically, and then I could get people will start to be fans of mine. But they don't understand that we had a following before the music, and then we just cultivated the music and built on top of that, and had
Right.
more, had people like we had expanded our fan base because we actually started to like sound good. But initially, the support came from because of who we were at first, and it's an it factor that you have to have. A lot of it can't be taught. It's just something you have to have. Now,
Right.
then you had those situations where you had people that have a talent and they're just somebody will come in, like somebody will come in that already has their own following, or somebody like a Kenny Burns, and they'll drive it down your throat, and then you'll like it, and they be like, oh, how did it happen for them, or how did it happen for you? They not even knowing that a lot of the chances that you had was because somebody else had the relationships, not because you didn't have the relationships. You had the talent.
Sounds like
But a lot of people don't put that together. They think that, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna give you an example. Mambo Sauce, Reds, y'all group made two of the best go-go records that we've had in years. Black Boot, one of the most talented, like he talented, like pure sheer talent. The other girl, she could sing. You know what I mean? Y'all had like a plan, y'all had a look, everything. I don't think that they understood that it wasn't them. It was your years in it. It was great marketing. It was great songs, but it couldn't sustain because y'all as a group had skipped a step. Y'all wasn't in the trenches playing in them go-go's over them years and all of that. You know what I mean? And then you got these people that are talented, but it's like you just came out of nowhere overnight. You didn't develop no rapport. You didn't have enough, you know what I mean, to like sustain. And I think that some people in the group start thinking, oh, it's me. I'm the reason for the success. I used to argue with Twink all the time. I'm like, how all of a sudden you think you know everything? You don't know nothing. You need to shut up and listen to people that's been in it and that know. And because it'll be over just as quick as it started if you don't humble yourself and listen. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I look at situations like that and with y'all, and I just be like, that's because the type of the integrity and the pride that I got, it's no way in the world that I could come into a group and you named the group what it was. It was your thing from conception, your baby. You no longer in the picture, but I'm gonna keep on going with the same name. I could never do that.
Yep.
I never been like that. Like to me, that's dick riding. You know what I'm saying? I could never, like if I'm involved in something and it was special, and then the creator of it or the majority of us aren't there anymore, it ain't that no more. You got to start from scratch and do something different with a different name and a different brand. Or I mean, a lot of people gonna look at you crazy because where's the integrity at anymore? It ain't the same thing. When Ronnie DeVoe and Michael Bivins and Ricky Bell, when New Edition, when Bobby Brown and them went on their own way, they didn't keep on with the name New Edition. They turned into BBD. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't understand. Like it's a lot of little things like that. Like as far as with your character and of who you are in life, that are obstacles for people here.
Yeah, well, that's how I describe it. Is sort of the DC disease started to take over, and I thought that I was never unclear about how things were working. Like anytime anybody came in the band, it was, listen, I'm running this just how you talked about earlier. I'm running this like a rock band. I'm not running this like a go-go band. We're not playing every week in a club. We're not going to, it's not about $150 a night.
Right.
I'm not taking any money out of this. I put up money to pay for rehearsals and studio time and all that shit until money started coming in. Mm-hmm. And we are going to all, take L's on this until the album is put out so that we can, because I'm not an independently wealthy person. I don't have 50 G's to just put up to pay for all this shit. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to take the money, just like a rock band that we make from the shows. We're going to put it back into the project. That's how we could afford a $10,000 video directed by Tabby Benet with another $2,000-$3,000 that we needed to get closed captioning and copies and all that to put on MTV and all that shit. And I was never, ever, ever ambiguous about any of that. But as soon as that second single hit and we had the two songs on at the same time, and all of a sudden everybody became Jay-Z.
That's what I'm saying.
In the movies, it's like people in the ear. Why aren't you getting paid for the show?
Hey, Rez, that's what we have a problem with here, and that is one thing that I could say. Working with Walé and being around everybody early, like I knew Meek Mill from going and recording with Young Chris and them up in Philly when he was young. You know what I mean? I had a rapport. I saw Cole from the beginning. Like in the beginning of Rock Nation days, it used to be just me. I used to be with Walé, J. Cole, Melanie Fiona, Solange, Samantha Ronson was around sometimes, the producer deputy, and Bridget Kelly. It was just like us. We were so close knit at the time. I got to see J. Cole like from the beginning. Like he learned so much from us, and he'll tell you to this day. Big Sean like learned so much from us that he'll tell you to this day. Like I had a relationship with Wiz Khalifa like years ago. Like I go way back with a lot of these guys, and what I can say is they don't dwell on just one record. They don't dwell on like, okay, that was good, but it's always like, I need a library. Like those dudes got thousands of songs.
Yep.
Sitting. We don't do that in Go-Go. We make like 10 records and we think that, oh, this is the big one. It's supposed to take us to, like, nah, bro. Like these producers and these artists, they have thousands, and I mean literally thousands of songs. Like I've been in the process, I've been in those studio sessions with these dudes making their albums, and they might have 80, 90 songs easily in a clip. You know what I mean? Like I got a business relationship or a friendship, and I'm in business with DJ Drama and Don Cannon. Man, they got thousands of beats. Like when producers come in and play records for A&Rs, they got folders for days, thousands of beats. They just need to know like what's your vibe, who it's for. And I sat there literally and seen the producer play beats for about 4 hours. But I'm talking about 30 seconds of the beat. And he to the next, to the next, to the next. And if you don't like it, he don't take it personal. He just on to the next one, on to the next, because he's shopping. Right. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we have that understand that work ethic or have that knowledge that in our area when it comes to the bands. It's not enough output.
Well, also, so I mean, part of it is, I think, a financial and logistical thing, like you were talking about before. It's significantly cheaper and easier for for a producer to sit in their room on a laptop and make up 100 beats. It's a lot more difficult to get everybody.
But a lot of the time, some of these bands need writers and producers. I mean, doing the what you ain't make that up. That's Marcus Miller.
Well, this is leading.
You know what I'm saying? So you got, like, for instance, sometimes I forget, Malachi. I forget I'm Grammy nominated. I got to remember that when I have conversations like this, because that's a big achievement, but I didn't win it. And it was for my work, like with somebody, like working with Walé and Miguel and them for Lotus Flower Bomb and Sam Duke. But okay, that's cool. But my mind been so focused on, okay, how can I win a Grammy? And I want to win those type of markers and awards, like for my own music, or those are the goals that you have to be like focused on. If you think that that's just enough, then come on, what are you doing? Well, like a lot of people don't understand either that, like a lot of these hip hop artists in DC, they making a lot of noise on the internet, but you can't sell 200 tickets in your own city. That's terrible. You're not doing nothing.
Yep.
You're making no. The go-go bands can still do 300 or 400 people in the city. So, don't disrespect the bands that still stay together. And one thing I wanted to say too about certain things not going to your head when you get some success and staying together. Look at Backyard and Rare Essence. They still together.
Yep. And
they still got probably 90% of the core group.
Yep.
And still kicking.
Well, I think there's a lot less ego in those bands than there are in some of the other bands. I'm not saying there's none, but just in my experience with playing with Backyard and my limited experience with knowing some of the people in Rare Essence, the level of ego in those bands compared to some of the other bands that aren't still together is fairly low. But I don't want to forget this point, because what I was saying earlier was with the challenges of producing for a large band and the need for having a large volume of records in order to have some that work. I've been asking other people on this interview series, do you think it's necessary if there's going to be a go-go artist of the future, does it need to be a band?
It don't have to be.
Okay.
Because I think that go-go has seen the national stage, but it just hasn't been
sustained
as a go-go act or as a go-go artist or a go-go band. Like you've seen what Chucky has done and what Rich has done,
yep,
or what Walé has done, but it hasn't been like on the same project. You understand what I'm saying? Like, let's just say, for instance, hypothetically, Bait Wale's Bait, Wale's Pretty Girls, Wale's Clappers, Sexy Lady, A-Marie One Thing, Tony Braxton's Take This Ring was all on the same project.
Yep. Jennifer Lopez.
From the same artist. Like, that's how you have to, that's a little secret. I'm not even sure if Eric wanted me to tell that to everybody. But just imagine if, you know what I mean? Imagine if all of those records was on the same project. Then you would have a blueprint. You have a marker of what this is.
There was 10 of those projects. That's what I'm talking.
Exactly. Or multiple projects.
That's what I'm trying to do.
That is what is necessary. That's what it needs. And then you'll have a lot of the naysayers that say, well, that's not go-go. So you mean to tell me because Bob Marley is playing roots reggae and it's not dance hall that it ain't reggae?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they kill me with that shit. Like, if it got elements of it, that's what it is, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's the producers that come from it and they producing it and they had those rhythmic syncopations and some of the things that we do, that's what it is.
Well, that's exactly the conversation that I would have with Dig Dug pre the time that he was talking to Kenny Burns or the band was talking to Kenny Burns, is that I would be like, he would be like, well, no, we got to play the covers. That's go-go. We got to do that. And I'm like, dude, you're fucking Dig Dug. Whatever you do is go-go.
Hey, Riz, I ain't gonna lie to you. It had got to a point early that we hated playing covers. But when we used to put out our albums with UCB, we used to play like more than 50% of our songs off the album. Yep. And then we had our own grooves, and you might have a sprinkle of a hook that people didn't know about that we made popular, and you know what I mean, that was from like the
90s,
hip hop artist or something like that. But for the most part, like I have pride as a man, and I don't think it's enough pride spread all over go-go to be able to say the love and admiration that you get. Why am I getting this love and admiration? This ain't even my song. Do I even deserve this?
Right.
Like, that's how I used to look at it. When we first started and in that basement, in Mike's basement, I will never forget. I said, if we're going to, at the time, Backyard was crazy popular. They had an influence over a lot of people. And they had kind of like, I ain't gonna say that they brought Timbales and Rototoms to the table because RE and NEG was doing that. But they're the ones that created that style of the heavy, Timbale grooves and everything.
Yeah, where it was primary.
And you had a lot of us that came after that was doing that. But I said, if we're going to do that, first of all our beats have to be our own beats, and they have to be clean and distinctive. It can't just be like all that shit you be hearing. Like, that's just noise to me. That's not. Those aren't like distinctive syncopated beats. Like, I could sound out Sauce beats. I could sound out Slump beats.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you can't sound out a locked in beat, it's just you just playing like.
Right.
But that was one of the things I said. We have to have that, and we have to have original material. Mm-hmm. That was our goal. And I used to say, man, if we in our 30s and we still playing it, the Met or Club U, that ain't we ain't win. We not successful then. And that ain't no knock to your REs and your backs that still do that. But I'm saying that we the generation after them, we supposed to go further than them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what they do. We supposed to take it a step further because they already gave us the platform to do that. So if we still in our 30s and we playing it, then we ain't successful. We might as well hang it up. That was my take on it. Right. And I mean, I think we did some things. Like we went to the VMAs and we was on David Letterman and a few of those other outlets, and we tried to do what we could, but internally we couldn't keep it together.
Well, so what do you think in terms of, because both of us have obviously had problems keeping bands together. It's an extremely challenging thing when you have that many personalities and that many different opinions and all that. What have you learned from working with, say a Walé or a J. Cole or any of those other people that you mentioned? And I mean, Wale's obviously changed his team quite a few times as well. So it's not only go-go bands that do that, but what do you what do you? But you guys are still there. What is there any like nugget of gold that you can, impart the knowledge from having?
I tell you what I learned, and I learned a lot of this with Pharrell. P always did his own thing. Him and Chad did their thing as the Neptunes, and that was the Neptunes. Yeah. Then Pharrell did his own producing on his own, and that was him on his own. Yep. Then he had NERD, and then that was NERD. Yep. Then he did Pharrell Williams, like his own solo music outside of the producing. Like but he did a lot of it simultaneously too. So okay, this is this and this is that. Like, and over here, it's a collaborative thing. Over here, I'm running the ship. Or you know what I'm saying? And that's our right to know that. So like, if you have a group that you working with, you work on the group thing, but it's a project. Then you might have something on your own, but if you're successful on your own, you're going to bring the attention to the group, or vice versa. Like, it's no problem if somebody is doing, different things, but you have time frames where you're doing them though. So like, if you're working on, like I learned a long time ago with NERD, they didn't even live in the same city. That's how I knew you could have a band and still make things happen and make things work. They don't even live in the same city, but they work on records. You got emails, or they come together for a certain amount of time, work on a project. They might go home, then they come back working on the project for however long. Then they go back to their homes and to their lives. And then when they go on tour, they're together. They touring the project that they made. You know what I mean? They're not gigging for the $100 a night, 5 nights a week in the area, in the same, beating the dead horse in the same market.
Right. Well, so my thing with that, I sometimes have a problem with when there's people that are in a go-go band and they're like, well, I'm just doing this for money, but really I'm working on my R&B project, or really I'm working on my hip hop project. And I'm like, if you just took the energy and the approach that you're taking to the R&B project and applied it to your go-go project, you would be able to cut through much easier, because there's a billion R&B singers. There's not that many popular go-go bands. So if you're coming with something fresh to the scene, just like you were talking about Walé, Leonardo DiCaprio and Jay-Z were coming, not just because he was a cool rapper, but because he was
something new.
Band. It was a new sound. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, obviously go-go's
one point I want to piggyback on to that. I just thought about also with go-go bands, the band only gonna go as far as the people on the front line take them. And when I say that, I'm like, I mean like Mama Sauce had great records. That's because Black Boo could really rap. You know what I'm saying? Like Rock Mikey and UCB, he can really rap. If you take him off the stage from the band, you could put him in the booth with other rappers.
Yep.
It ain't a lot of people that's in the go-go bands that you can say that.
Right.
A lot of the lead talkers are great lead talkers, and they can do what they do, but they not good rappers. And a lot of people might have too much pride to come in and let somebody write your rhymes. You know what I'm saying? Like Los, that's a rapper from Backyard.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you have to challenge yourself. Like, okay, if I sing for a go-go man, if I rap or a go-go man on the mic, what is my value? Because if we making a record, what am I here for? If I ain't, you know what I'm saying? So that's an argument I used to have with Casey from Black Alley. I used to tell her the Black Alley only gonna go as far as you take them. And my analogy is always to Black Thought and the Roots, or to Pharrell and NERD. NERD was successful, but they gonna be as successful as P and Shay take them. You know what I'm saying? That's the front men. Those are the ones that are on the mic. Yep.
Well, so tell us. We're a little bit over, but I'm cool with that. What? Tell us what you're working on now. What you got?
I'm still writing. Me and Eric have our group, The People. We're working on our first release. I mean, we got records, but
cussing you out just like I cuss Eric out. Y'all not working fast enough.
Yeah, I know we're not working fast enough.
I
No,
wanna hear-
you right.
Because I'm selfish. I want to hear some
You
music.
you right. I mean, but I got 20 years of material, so
There you go.
I got, you know what I mean? We put out a record, No Place Like Home, last year. But we just wanted the music to be right, because we know that the expectation is to a certain level. So but I think we close. Definitely what's going on right now, we getting closer, because it forced us to sit down. I still tour with Walé and work, in the studio when they need me or ask me to come through. I have the museum shop, my own clothing boutique, trying to preserve DC culture and bridge the gap between the old and the new DC. So that's in DC. A lot of people are supporting on Rhode Island Avenue, Northeast.
Okay.
The museum with my partners Greg and Muhammad, who I had BOA and Legacy with. We was responsible for Fat Trail and a few other people that you know about from the area. But also I'm just trying to, how can I say this? We still have a plan, like for GoGo, and we working with one of the biggest artists in the game who really wants to see it win, along with Walé, to try to like bring this to a global stage. But we just gonna need people to like humble themselves and to really like follow the vision, because we want to shine a light on what's going on here. So that's kind of in the works as well.
Well, I need to be involved. God damn it.
Oh, for sure. you the ace in the hole, Reg.
Where?
You like the, but since you want to be a host now, you can't be you ain't a secret no more. You ain't the secret.
The only reason I'm doing it is because I want to flush out the people that, because there's a lot of people that talk shit in go-go. And there's also some people that are starting to get it. The problem is that most of the people that are starting to get it are our age. You know what I'm saying? Or older.
Right.
Like it's a little too late for you to really
right. That's another thing. Like, you don't have music in the schools anymore, and then like what we did with Walé, going to places that we went and took the sound, it was helpful, but it helped open up doors for the city, but it also hurt a little bit in ways, because now all the youngers want to be rappers.
Yep.
They don't want to be in the band anymore.
Yesterday, I was like, how do you feel about you and Walé putting the nail in the coffin of go-go being the prominent force in DC music? Y'all fucked it all up. So you're part of it too, so I'm blaming you too.
Yeah, nah, for real. I mean, I always say, damn, like, was that more of a hurt or a help? Like, but with that being said, like you said, if it's R&B singers or if it's rappers, if they would come with a more of producers that knew how to produce that music or produce that sound, then they could still take the sound, even if it isn't bands. You could still take the sound going into the future, and then you still have bands that are still like holding it down, like your REs and your TCBs and your backyards that are still playing. So if you actually wanted to go to, like I took Pharrell, me and Walé took Pharrell to see TCB and Red Essence in the same night, like 10 years ago. He brought us out on stage at the Constitution Hall, and then later that night we took him to see TCB at the Scene, and we took him to see Red Essence at the Trade Winds. I had called Tré and said, yo, I'm about to bring somebody to the, and I had called Vic, I think, to go take him to see TCB, but Polo had already passed away. What's crazy was we were supposed to take Pharrell to see TCB way before that, while Polo was still alive, because Polo had started calling me like every week. around this time because he was starting to figure some things out and trying to figure out his next move. The CFE was crazy and all of that, but I told him Pharrell was in town for something at the White House, and Walé called me and was like, "Yo, we gonna take P out tonight." I was like, "All right, man, I'm gonna call, I'm gonna set it up." But he had to end up. This was when Obama was in office. Pharrell had to end up. He couldn't get away from the White House thing, so we didn't get to go. But I was about to take him to see TCB because, like, I always felt like it needed to be somebody still holding down the fort in town, and we would be the ambassadors to go out and make everybody come.
Like you think it's not mutually exclusive. You can still have the bands play every night, and you can have GOGOTX.
And so TCB was still so hot at the time. A lot of people don't know. Me and Eric helped start that band. Basically started TCB. Even the people that's in the band don't even know that because nobody that's in the band now was there in the beginning. Right. Like Jew is a dude named Jew. He played the drums. He used to cut our hair, and Polo used to cut our hair. Yep. Polo used to love the band thing so much, like hanging around groovers and all of that. Yep. But he like 10 years older than me. Like nobody knew that he really wanted to do that for real. But he used to ask us all these questions every week, me in the barbershop. And he was like, "Yo, can y'all please help me start my band?" Man, we helped him start the group. Like he started with Rock Mikey's cousin Man. So it wasn't just Polo Band. It was Polo and Man Band. Right. And we said we total control. We're gonna call ourselves TCB, like y'all, cuz. Like it was such a thing that like y'all, you know what I'm saying? So we took Polo to get the equipment. That nigga bought all that shit in one day. It took us a year to piece out shit. We stole shit, had people give us shit he bought all of it in one day. I was like, damn, he bought all the equipment in one day. And then we started showing them like how to make grooves and like just the how to play go-go, and Polo worked hard on it. Like I don't think he was like a natural like music guy. He just was something that he put his mind to and he really wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? And then we let them open up for us for a couple years, but then he felt like he figured it out. And then it kind of had got like a little rocky because it was like, it started to go to his head in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And then, but it was like, I used to tell him, I'm like, but you gotta calm down because you sound like this person or you sound like that person. You haven't done this, you haven't done that. Like you getting a little beside yourself. But then he didn't even realize that until a couple years later when he would start calling me and he told me, like, man, I appreciated the shit that I was saying to him earlier. This is before Bo came to the band. I love Bo, but Bo had already been in the band, TCB Bo. And then he came in and I could see the shift when he came, like in the things that they was doing. And this is before they even had, what's the dude, Ben, they met. It was before all of that. Like none of them was there in the beginning for the first couple years. A lot of it was like myself and Mr. Carter and Eric, like helping them, like holding their hand. And when they came up with their own sound, like that bounce beat, I was proud of him because I'm like, they finally found their niche. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like they not like us. They not like Backyard no more. They like they finally found their niche, and I was proud of that because, like I told you earlier, like I felt a kind of way, like, oh, why y'all got name y'allself like why y'all got like I didn't like that shit back then. Right. You know what I mean? Because then everybody, even to this day, people still be confused. They like, you used to play with the group. So I'm like, yeah.
It's very similar.
But that was because Mike cousin Man started the band. It was like a family. I mean, we gonna do this like y'all, cuz like.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of, I could go for days, Malachi. We don't have a lot of time, but I got a lot of stories that people just don't know. And I'm like, I could just, put the light on so much. There's a lot of people not gonna like the truth or what.
Well, we're gonna have to do a part 2 because actually I have a call in 5 minutes with Riley Brown Chuck Brown's son. He's working on some music too. And so
we went to Chuck Brown. That's another thing we got to support. Like I love the Don't UDC support and all that, but we should have had that earlier, because when Chuck was on the petition for being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was only like 4 of us from UCB that we flew to Cleveland to support that day. When it was like a couple of media outlets, like Cato was there, and a few other like media people that was covering Go-Go was there, but nobody from the bands was there. We flew out there on a Saturday morning, and then we flew back to do the hot shop that night, just to be there for Chuck. Huh?
Remember what year that was?
That was like 2001, 2000 or 2001, because the hot shop ended in 2002.
Gotcha. So I guess I was home at that time, but I know that's when I was playing with Northeast Groovers / Solo. I wouldn't have had enough money to fly to Cleveland. I know that. Not that I'm saying we weren't making money, but I mean, I was in a band, and that was my only job. It was not enough.
Right. But listen, before we go, I just want to say to a lot of the go-go bands and people that are in the go-go community, especially on the front line, stop living off the blood, sweat, and tears of the musicians and step up and do something. Because we only gonna go as far as like the people that are the face of the group, that are on the mic, take them. And if you're not spitting no bars, or if you're not singing no songs or making up some of your own material, it's gonna continue to be a fight. Like, what are we doing? Like, because nobody that's sitting in Arizona they're gonna look at you and say, okay, well, what is their purpose? Like, or executive. I remember Eric Favre used to always say, man, if I was an executive, I'd fire everybody and start from scratch, because what do you do? What do you offer me outside of you? Outside of you screaming out neighborhoods, what is your purpose?
That's what I always say. I want to be, somebody pay me $150 a night to just keep saying yeah all night long. I want to be that dude in the band. You know what I'm saying? Like Cal said that on the very first one of these interviews I did, which was Brooks from Reaction said backlines matter.
They do. Backlines and DJs.
Yeah.
People we forget. Like people is really while we on this quarantine. I think the people understand remembering the value of a DJ now.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah. I posted on GOGOTIX last week or whatever, D Nice playing Sexy Lady.
Oh, D Nice always shows love. I talk to D Nice all the time.
Yeah.
That's my man. Like, he always showed love. Like from back then. Yeah. Like when it was first out. Yeah. And you know, like I was a fan of D Nice. I was 7, 8 years old, like watching D Nice videos on MTV.
Yeah. That's what's up. Well, Killer Cal said on the very first interview, he questioned whether or not the lead talker position is necessary moving forward in go-go, not necessarily for the hometown stuff, but on the mainstream,
right?
Mainstream, yeah.
They not, unless they're gonna be saying a rap or something. Yeah. But the thing is, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it was a certain amount of humility, like for me as a writer and I produce certain things, I know what I could do with a raw voice. Like I know what to do with it. Yeah. Like I would know what to do with a Big G or a Bugs voice on a record. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the top of the top there. So that's a little bit of a different situation. But listen, man, Tré, I really appreciate it, man. I wish we could keep going, but we're going to do it again. And let's definitely keep in touch. I want to, I told Eric already, I want to help you guys with whatever I can help with.
Okay.
And I just want to see, I'm just so frustrated with the fact that we just can't seem to get out of our own way, and whatever I can do to help get beyond that, I want to do it. You know what I mean? So
appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, cool.
All right. Thanks, bro.
All right.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Tomorrow we got Tone P of Best Kept Secret, who's the guy that produced all the Walé Bait, Clappers, Dig Dug, all of those. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for that. Thanks everybody for tuning in.